righty. Let's see here. Give me 1 second. There we go. Got it. All right. Everybody good to go here? All
Yep.
right. Okay, cool. Everybody, welcome to I want to say that this is the fourth time I've done a pregame live show with my good buddy AB from Caniac Sessions here to be our first guest. We will also have another guest joining us here in about 15 to 20 minutes, which is a friend of mine named Steve. He's a Rangers fan, but we won't hold that against him. There's a few of them that don't suck. He's a really good friend of mine. He's actually encouraged me to start the channel and everything. So, AB, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I think it's only fitting because it's raining and thundering in Raleigh, so maybe that's a sign that something good's going to happen in Madison Square Garden. I'm more nervous than any other series I think the Canes have been in
Yeah,
since in past history. So
Yeah, I've got a few. I got a few jitters about this one, but I think we'll be okay, and so will they once they settle in and everything like that. So the reason I was going to have you start, but I got it finished. I've got a little pre-recorded video of a player comparison between Vincent Trocheck and Evgeny Kuznetsov that I'll play in a few minutes. That's one of the matchups I'm really looking at. But there's two of them I'd like to talk about in particular, and I want to get your opinion on it. So the other player comparison I did, I don't have a video made for it yet. It'll probably be the next time I do a pregame live show, but I want to touch on it right now, especially considering one of the guys that I'm going to mention was finally named a Selke finalist today, Jordan Staal, Barclay Goodrow. How do you match those two players up?
Well, I mean, you have a guy has a lot of experience. He's been to the top of the mountain. It was obviously very early, and he's been through the dog days of this franchise. So, and at the age he's going at, he's a good power forward to just have, and you know what you're getting. He's not going to score a lot of goals, but he's going to fight, and he's going to win faceoffs. And honestly, I think that's what the Selke is about. It's about being a power forward, winning faceoffs when you need to.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and you've even talked about it too, is it's just about points. All of the awards are about points, except for like the Lady Bing or the Memorial Trophy, or
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the Jennings. No, I don't think that's it.
The Jennings is a goaltending tandem.
Yeah, but two Canes are up for three are up for awards, so it would be nice to see Stahl get the Selke. Is it going to happen? No, Barkov's probably going to win it, but
Mm-hmm. That's
yeah.
been my biggest. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the matchup is gonna be interesting, but I think Stahl knows when to throw his body, and you don't see him lose his cool. With Goudreau, it's a totally different. Goudreau, it's a totally different story.
Mm-hmm.
So I see the advantage towards Stahl, and especially how his line's been playing. I don't think that it's going to be a very tough matchup for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the other thing about it is it's like those guys, they probably won't be out there on the ice against each other. But I think as far as having someone who will go out there and shut down the other team's best forwards so that our big guns can do their thing, Jordo's got the advantage there. And little known thing right now that's kind of flown under the radar, he has recorded 27 hits in 5 games against the Islanders, which were a very physical team. So Jordo's really stepped it up in the playoffs, and he's going to have to do that some more. But I'm really happy he finally got a nomination. It's long overdue. I'm hoping that within the next couple of years, people will start recognizing how good Aho is defensively. So because like the game I saw out of him in Game 5 that's the Aho I'd been looking for. If he doesn't put up points, fine. But if he goes out there and plays that well defensively, then all the better. The points are probably going to have to come from elsewhere, and the depth scoring is going to be a big thing. So that brings me to my next point. When we were talking about it, when we had our meeting of the minds the other day, I think Jordan Martinook is about to have an exceptional series. I've got nothing to back that up other than what he did against the Devils, but I can see him starting to pick them apart the longer the series goes along and him starting to really put up some numbers. What do you think?
I think it's one of those guys where you know what you're getting with Jordan Martinook, but from an outside perspective, you kind of just think, oh, he's a bottom 6 forward. But
Mm-hmm.
the difference is that he can turn it up like that instantly. And he's proven that he's such a valuable part of this team. We go back to game 2, right after we tied the game, just a fake move, thought he was going around net. He didn't put it right in, and he's just physical. He knows what he's doing. He knows where his matchups are. He knows, he can't be the most fast and score goals, but he knows he can be physical and get down in the
Mm-hmm.
deep areas. And if he does that, It's going to throw the Rangers off their game, and then you're going to see our bottom six forwards like Nason, Martinuk, Kuznetsov, Drury, maybe. I think he's playing on the second line, but those guys can easily make an impact if you're only focusing on our top guys. We're more depth, and that's where Martinuk and Stahl can come in and really shift the series to our favor.
Yes, that's one thing I was thinking, because that was kind of how it went against the Devils. It will not be that easy with this. I have said over and over again, regardless of however this series ends, I think it's going to 7 games. Now, one other little piece of news here that we'll discuss, as long as you still got some time and everything.
Yeah.
The Hurricanes and the Wolves reunion. I had a lot of skepticism about it, but the fact that the Hurricanes have control of hockey operations, Wendell Young is not the GM for them anymore, which the one downside of that is I hated that maybe he wasn't going to get a paycheck, but he's their vice president of hockey operations. I believe his title was. So he still gets to work for the organization he loves. I think that this is really a win-win for both sides, especially considering it's a 3-year agreement with option years. So I'm looking forward to seeing our prospects grow there. So what do you think?
I think it's a really smart move. I'm glad the Wolves decided to wake up and realize, this isn't like independent hockey. Like there has to be minor league, not minor league, but developmental systems, because
Mm-hmm.
even though the AHL is a very competitive league, it's not the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a hassle because we had so many of these great young players that we thought, oh, they may make the roster. Now all of a sudden they're going to like the Thunderbirds, they're going to the Checkers, they're going overseas. Now we have the opportunity to have them in the US, and we have control, and we can see these players and have more of a connection with the team to kind of check in on everything. So that's a huge win. I'm glad they signed an agreement, a multi-year. So just to have that relationship back, and I mean, every NHL team needs to have an AHL team. That's just
Mm-hmm.
how it is. So no complaints. Just hope it doesn't happen again, because it was definitely tough this year.
Yeah, by the time that that expiration expires, I think the NHL will be up to 34 teams anyway. I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking at 36 by then.
Mhm.
Um, I'm personally against rapid expansion, but the one good thing about it is that would give the Hurricanes options in terms of what they want to do for an affiliate at that point. Because if you're going to have more NHL teams, inevitably you're going to have more American League teams. I am happy that our prospects have somewhere to develop now, and I know that I've had my exchanges with Chicago Wolves fans and everything. But the good thing for them is they're going to win more than 23 games next season. I believe that the Chicago Wolves will be a Calder Cup contender right off the bat. Like especially if we managed to re-sign a lot of our guys, then, Morrow, Sealy,
Nadeau,
Nadeau, um,
Blake.
Jackson Blake, all those guys are going to be getting a good year of development in, and then we'll have a good problem to have the season after that. But like that team is going to be stacked. So Chicago Wolves fans, I know I've had my issues with you, but you have a lot to be excited about with this prospect pool. You probably won't get to see Nikishin play a single game for you though, because I think he's going to be he's ready now, so he'll make the roster on day one.
No doubt. No doubt.
But yeah, I have very much enjoyed you coming on here and everything, and you can stick around as long as you want to, like however much time you have and everything, because my friend who's a Rangers fan will be coming on it too.
Okay. I'll
So
stick around for a little
uh,
bit until he comes
yeah.
on.
Well, I was gonna say if you want to talk to him too, he's really cool. He plays goalie, so you and him would get along in that regard as well. But he's a really good friend of mine. I've known him for years. But yeah, actually, let's see. So before I play my little video here that I'm going to do of the Kuznetsov and Trocheck matchup, it's about 9.5 minutes long. It's a little thing I pre-recorded and everything. What do you think about that matchup?
Yeah, Trocheck and Kuznetsov.
Yeah, I think that they feel similar roles, kind of.
They are similar. Trocheck has more of an advantage on the face-off circle,
Mm-hmm.
but Kuznetsov compared to Trocheck's a very steady player, and he had a great series against Washington. But I'm going to be honest, Washington was just like a walk in the park. I mean, seriously, no
Mm-hmm.
fight. But Kuznetsov, he has the experience in the playoffs. And I think when he wants to turn it on, he can. And you
Mm-hmm.
saw it with the penalty shot. I mean, he already has points. The only person that doesn't have points forward wise is your boy
Kotkaniemi.
ES Perry Kokaniemi, which I hope he doesn't start, but it looks like he's going to. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would say Trocheck is maybe a little bit better all around. If you go back maybe 3 or 4 years ago, it would be a totally different story. So I'm
Mhm.
interested to see this video and to see the comparison because
Well,
all the
I'll
stuff
tell you
you've done
what.
is insane.
Let me get let me get it uploaded right here.
Okay.
Whoops, that video is a bit too long. The maximum is 10 minutes. Go ahead and keep talking about this. I'll see if I can shrink it a little bit more because it's just over 10 minutes.
So the big thing is, Kuznetsov definitely has more playoff experience. We saw his run with the Capitals where he should have been the Conn Smythe winner. I don't know who won it. Was it Ovechkin?
Ovechkin won it, yeah.
Which no doubt he probably was going to win, obviously. But yeah, Kuznetsov played really well, and just the way he's kind of stepped in and his mentality. I remember after game one, when he won, they kind of asked him, are you excited? And I go back to a video of Kobe Bryant when he was playing in the NBA Finals, and they were up uh, 3 games to like one, I think, and they needed one more to win. And they were like, how are you going to celebrate? And he goes, there's nothing to celebrate about. The job's not finished. So I think that's their mentality right now. And I think they feel a lot more comfortable with having guys that have been to the top besides, like, gosh, who was on our team last year? Well, not really a lot of guys that have been to the top. I mean, you have Getzel, you have Jordan Stahl, you have Dmitry Orlov, you have Jake Getzel. So you have four guys there, and most of our team has playoff experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that also and Teuvo Teravainen, he was there when they won the Stanley Cup for Chicago.
Yeah. No, we've definitely got
So
some cup pedigrees on this team that we definitely have some cup pedigrees on this team that'll definitely be good and everything like that. My buddy is backstage. Let me see if he's ready. Let's see.
let's see what the line is for the game.
I think they're the same ones that they were running yesterday. Because I double checked them before I did the series preview and everything like
So
that. So
no lineup tweaks for the Hurricanes. Corey Laviolette just tweeted. So Anderson's
okay.
going to get the start. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
going to stay the same, which
Okay.
sucks. But
Yeah, like we talked about the other day. I think we'll be a little bit better off having Lemieux in the lineup because you get
you know what you're getting.
you get a physicality net positive, and KK, like when he's going, he's great. But the poor guy, it's like people think that because of that joke that I made last night with the MLB thing. Um,
I didn't see that.
if you go back and look, I
Let's look.
posted I forget his name, but his actual name, but he plays for the Toronto Blue Jays. I want to say, and Sportsnet put a video up of it. Where
Kevin Kiermaier.
Yeah, Kevin Kiermaier, that's who it is. And they're like, "Welcome back, KK." And I quote tweeted and I put a picture of our KK on there. I'm like, I know another KK that's been missing, which I can't help but like joke about it now because I feel bad for the kid. Like, because he's like one of my favorite players. His name's on my Stadium Series sweater. When I first met you guys, that was the one that I was wearing and everything.
Yeah.
But it makes absolutely zero sense why he can't. It's got to be mental with him, I think. And I think he still can get it together. I'm not ready to give up on him yet. I mean, I think maybe he might be kind of a Lafreniere type of situation where it just takes him a few years to be like, oh, finally, there you are. Now, granted, this is not all his fault. Montreal messed up his development badly. It was
Mm-hmm.
awful how bad that they like messed him up. A guy drafted that high should not have to spend a single day in the minors.
Mm-hmm.
So, and everyone said, "Oh, you should have drafted Philip Zadina instead."
Oh,
And
he was a disaster.
he was a disaster. Whether he stayed in Montreal or ended up with us, KK's the better player. That's been proven. It's just he's having a hard time producing. But if he brings the physicality in the series, I can care less if he produces because we've seen him do it. He can hit. He's
Mm-hmm.
just not really been doing it like he could. I mean, the fact that he laid out Cal Clutterbuck of all people, like
Mm-hmm.
the capabilities there. But right now he's still sub 50 in the faceoff circle. He's close to 50. I think he was 48.6 when I looked before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my buddy Steve's backstage. He's trying to get his Bluetooth connected and everything like that.
I'll say this in the 2018 draft. So he was third. After
Mm-hmm.
was Brady Kachuk.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other guys probably you should have gotten, but you didn't know. Quinn Hughes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see who else is in. No, just Quinn Hughes. In that first round, it was only Quinn Hughes and Brady Kachuk were the
Mm-hmm.
two.
And
because
then
you had
before
like
that, it was
Barrett,
Svechnikov and Dahlin,
yeah,
second
and
and
then you
first.
had like Hayton, Bovequist, Kraftsov,
Mhm.
Bouchard. Bouchard's good. Wallstrom though, Dobson, yeah.
Bouchard
Delan-
shoots a puck better than just about anybody I've ever seen.
Delandria, Farabee,
I like Ty Dellandrea. I like him a lot, actually. All right.
Denisenko. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
just no guys. So.
Yeah. Let me all right, let me bring my buddy in here. Steve, how
Uh,
are you doing, pal? Good to see you.
hey, how you doing? Can you hear me? I've never done one of these before.
Yeah, no, I can hear you just fine.
Awesome.
Steve, this is AB. I podcast with him.
What's up, man?
What's up,
You
man?
guys are both goalies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good.
But
This is
so
pretty
what
good
are your
setup you
thoughts
got
on
here, bro.
Oh, thank you. It
Yeah, I
took
like
me a
it.
while to figure out how to do it. So what are your
Yeah, it's
thoughts on
nice.
the series? I know we've talked about it a little bit at work and everything like that.
Well, to be honest with you, I think I have a similar opinion of you as you do that it'll probably go long. And
Mhm.
that being said, the Rangers are a little bit different for me this year.
Mhm.
Like even like in the Cup run 10 years ago, like I went into that final series against the Kings, like they're not going to do this. Like it was, and like the series we had with you guys 2 years ago, I actually thought we wouldn't pull it out. It didn't feel like we were going to get much further than you, right? Than you
Mhm.
guys, even if we did pull it out. Pulled off a miracle against the Penguins, like right before you guys. It still didn't feel like we were going, yard on this. And I don't know how it'll work. I mean, the parity in the NHL is such that anyone could beat anybody, but I'm not afraid for once in the playoffs. That's if that's an indicator of anything. I listened to your last video, your preview of the series, and I think you're pretty spot on in a lot of your assessments. I think the power play is going to be, unfortunately, what we might have to lean on if they can't figure things out. That being said, I mean the team has done something in the last series that I think some people might have overlooked or might overlook about the Rangers. The Rangers, in spite of like their good season and their President's Trophy, I don't really care about the President's Trophy. None of us care about the President. Last time we saw them raise the cup, I was like 12. So like we're ready for
I was
something else
3. I
besides.
didn't know what was going on
Yeah,
yet.
right. So and I'm 40 now. So like we
You're
don't.
doing better than I am. Look at me. I look like I'm in my 40s.
What's the cursing policy on your platform, by the way?
Go
Is
ahead,
it like
do it.
all
Feel
right,
free.
sweet.
This is not a family-friendly show.
Yeah. And I'm a New Yorker, so right. So I don't know how to not curse. But the Capitals, in spite of them being probably like the least prepared team for the playoffs, in spite of like their run to it this year, that was like the type of team and the type of play style that I didn't think the Rangers could sweep. Right. I figured they would blow a game, maybe a second game, just out of complacency, playing down. And they didn't do that, and that's what surprised me the most about the Rangers. So if they can maintain that level of heart, I don't suspect they have it in them to sweep the Hurricanes. I'm not even like I wouldn't even think about it if it was 3-0 in the series by some miracle. But they're showing a resiliency that I think is kind of it differs from the previous year's playoff runs. So
Mhm.
in that regard, I'm hopeful, right, about what they can do. I'm confident. Um, NL would be disappointing overall. That being said, I'm not afraid of any one team. I think they were able to beat almost every team this year at least once. So, um, I think it'll be interesting. It'll be fun. I'm just glad the Caps are out of the way, and
Yeah,
we'll
I
see how
think
it goes.
we're both happy about that
Yeah,
because of,
yeah.
where we live and
Where we
everything.
live. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Oh no, there were some of them that were like already saying this stuff about, like there were some of them coming at me over that. I'm like, bro, I had nothing to do with that series. I literally had nothing to do with it in every way imaginable.
Right. No, it's funny
Straight.
because I was in Myrtle last week for a golf
Mhm,
trip, and
mhm.
I got out there the night of Game 2 against the Capitals, and the bar we were at was full of Rangers fans, and the Hurricanes didn't announce that ticket policy that they were doing, but a
Mhm.
lot of them said like it's only 3 hours north. We're all driving north. We're all driving north. So I'll be interested to see how many Rangers fans squeak in through that policy, but it's not going to be like the Verizon or what's PNC Center or whatever it's called now, and up here
Mhm.
in Washington, where it was basically like 50-50.
Oh,
So
Capital One. Yeah,
yeah, Capital One, right?
yeah.
I haven't been there since it was called Verizon Center, so haven't gotten out to a game in a while. But
Mhm.
So
But
let
yeah.
me ask you this. So you saw the Rangers play against the Canes in 2022, obviously in 7 games. What do you think is most different about Carolina this year that kind of makes you go, okay, well, maybe they're a little bit better? Are there some guys that you're watching out for? I mean, just kind of your take. What do you think's different about this team, even the Rangers too, from 2 years ago?
Well, so admittedly, I'm not as micro on this as Brandon is, and how you probably are. I tend to not follow on such fine level details. But that being said, what I will say is this might sound a little like I'm cracking a joke here, but I'm always weary of former Rangers and what they're going to do. So I look at guys like TDA, who I actually wish never left the Rangers. Brady Shea, I mean, I liked him, but it was probably the right time for him to get like a reboot to his career. And one of my favorites, my all-time favorite, Jesper Fast. Is he injured? Like, I saw that I thought
He's
I saw
not.
that
He's not playing for the playoffs.
He's got something going on with his neck to where, because
Neck
initially
strain.
they thought it was just a regular neck strain, and they were like,
Right.
okay, and he'll get back, but he's been ruled out basically through the playoffs.
Yeah, he's
If
in a
we get
neck
to
brace.
If we get to the
Okay,
finals, he might be ready, and he might pull an Eric Cole. But
right.
I'm not counting on it.
I mean, didn't Jesper have like 1 or 2 overtime winners for you guys last year or the year before that?
He
or
had
something
2
like
big
that?
ones. He had last year. He had
Yeah.
one against the Islanders in Game 2, and then he won the
Yeah.
series against the Devils with a very unconventional goal. We'll
Yeah.
call it that.
Right. I remember
First
that.
playoff game I ever went to.
I mean, it seems like, we used to call Tampa like Rangers South, but now it's kind of turned into like like former Rangers have made their way to the Hurricanes a little more lately. That being said, on a more serious level, like your D is great. The defense, the goaltending situation, Freddie Anderson is great. Kochekov is a great backup. I can't really see, in listening to your preview in your last warning take video on YouTube, I can't really see them going down to Quick unless they have to, like unless like Shesterkin just has like a real stinker. Truth is, since the All-Star game, I can't really think of a game where he's had one. There might have been 1 or 2 games where he got wrecked, but that was like a defensive breakdown type of game where it didn't seem that Shesterkin was so much to blame. Prior to that, that was probably one of my biggest questions, not because I didn't have faith in the guy, but he was really in like a down situation, which is what led to like the resurgence and the attention that Quick got and the amount of games that Quick got. And, Quick really pulled a miracle because I think a lot of people thought he was washed up, not ready to take over or continue his career anywhere really. And for some reason, I thought that just wasn't a good assessment from the start. I liked him as a backup better than I did Halak, who was sticking around for a couple of years. And he was a pleasant surprise. I don't know if we'll see a situation where Quick plays, though, unless Shesterkin really screws up like multiple games in a row. He's really been standing on his head for like the last month or two, and I hope that persists. That being said, Kochekov is a very formidable backup. I know he played like half the games this year for you guys, right? Because Freddie was out for like half the season.
He had a pretty good record too.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, your team did really well. So, like, what would be almost mirrored on record, basically? Like, besides a couple of overtime losses, I think we had very similar records.
Yeah, I think we were 3 points apart or something like that. It was pretty close.
I think we had OT losses, but same record.
Right.
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Right. And I mean, the Rangers, like, their depth on D concerns me a little bit, not because they don't have it in them, but just because like this year they've had a little inconsistency on like their second and third pairings, like the people who aren't Adam Fox, basically. Even Trouba's had some ups and downs. I feel like Trouba started pretty well for the year. Had like a little injury or like a suspension or something, and then when he came back, he's had some games where it's just there have been some really mind-boggling errors on his part that aren't like in his character. So I'm concerned about that, but they played well against the Caps. They played some good shutdown games against the Caps. I know the Caps don't have much offense, but when they did turn it on, when they got a little desperate, the Rangers really held strong. Like those games, like I was saying, like games 3 and 4, like those were the types of games that in previous years, like the Rangers would have like a third period breakdown or give up a last minute goal and send the series to overtime. And then we would blow it in overtime or something stupid. And it just didn't happen. I was waiting for that crumble to happen. And I think that like for the whole series, the Rangers like trailed for like 3 minutes or something like that, for the whole series. So, and then they gave up a first goal twice. Right. So that just shows you that they were able to bounce back in a way that, while they might have done that in previous years against the Rangers had like in the past decade, they've had 4 or 5 3-1 comebacks in the playoffs. and like 3 of those against the Caps, which is dope. But and 1 against the Hurricanes. Sorry, but you know,
Oh, ah, oh.
even though they had done that in the past, um, this is the first time where I'd almost like expect them to turn it up and make that type of surge, not just like a miracle. Like I don't feel like I have to pray before these games, like I might have in the past. So we'll see. I mean, I'm curious about like what Hurricanes fans think of the Rangers. We are Rangers fans are notoriously hard on the like I watch the streams and like not always on like ESPN Plus or YouTube TV, but on some like whenever I'm blacked out here in the capital region or whatever, I watch it on this other thing. And when a single goal goes in, like the Rangers are like it's over. Like Rangers fans think it's like the end.
Oh no, we do that too. It's
we're notoriously yeah.
So it's like out of all the times we did that, there was only one time we really needed to. We had a 3-goal collapse against the Winnipeg Jets in the third period during a Sunday afternoon game. We had the exact same reaction every single time that we got scored on, as if that game was happening all over again before and after it happened. So we do the same thing where we're like, oh shit, we just got fuck, here we go. It's basically the reaction that everyone has. And a lot of times Carolina overcomes that. They just had that one game where I'm like, you're not going to go 82 games and not eventually blow one with a 3-goal lead in a period. It's just not possible. Like, for all you want to talk about how bad maybe Ottawa is or how bad Columbus is, it can happen against them too. Every team in this league is a good team. The parity between the very best player and the very worst is like, I've always told people that if Gretzky and Messier and all those guys played now, they'd still be great players, but they wouldn't be as impactful as they were in their time frame, because I just think the average player, especially like skating wise, shot velocity, all the little things that make a hockey player good, even the Austin Watsons of the world are exceptionally skilled players now. It's just the way that it is. So it's like that. That's why sometimes when them and Chelios analyze the game and everything, I'm kind of like, yeah, bro, your last stick was a wooden coho. I don't know if.
Hey, don't hate on much. I used to use Coho Revolution and the Titan.
I love the Coho Revolution. I love that stick.
I miss those too. Yeah, and my little Heaton goalie sticks that cost like $39.99, and now they're like $300. And
well, that's why I like order pro stock ones, because I save a little bit of money that way.
Yeah.
And then I found a website that does custom ones for $179. They're not flashy looking, but I'm gonna eventually I'll do a video about it where like I like try to rebuild the Total One MX3 because that was my favorite stick ever. But yeah.
That's not a bad point. I mean, like that type of parity thing though, that's present in other sports too, So like I'm a big golfer. And nowadays, like even though there's 1 or 2 players who've been dominating lately, like the way golf is now and the attention this kind of actually segues pretty well into the conversation we've had about goalie equipment and the goalie position in general.
Yeah.
Everything is about like creating and adapting to the meta, right? And like I'm not sure if you guys are gamers or anything like that, but like the meta is like the most efficient and best way to do something, right? So in like a game like Call of Duty, everyone will use the same gun because it's the meta, right? I think that and this is curious about your opinion here, especially you as a goalie. What's your name again? AB?
AB, yeah.
AB. What does that stand for?
It's my first initial, my last initial.
All right, cool. We'll go with that. So, especially you, AB, like there are no more Hasheks, there are no more Cujos, there are no more creative people in the position, right? It's all about streamlining the movement and the way that you adapt yourself to play in goal to take up as much space as possible, and in essence, leave like fractional pieces of the net open for offensive players to shoot at, right? That's what the position is now. Same in golf. Like the people are not like approaching the game in their youth like it was during the Tiger Woods era, right? Like Tiger Woods was able to sweep things and rack up like 14 majors at the time. He's added a couple more since, because like there wasn't that attention to the sport like it is actually a sport, right? It was still a sport for old and fat people, right? Training. Ways of adapting to and training for the game off ice, like virtual stuff for goalies, dry ice. Those things didn't exist when we were younger. And I think you're seeing people approach the concept of training for an eventual career in the pros, training for something in such a different way now, not just in the goalie position, but throughout, that everyone's getting to that draft pretty damn good, right? And, it creates a situation where like maybe you have someone who gets drafted first overall and isn't that great, like Alexi Lafreniere. Like he didn't start very well. I kind of like what he's settled into, right? But you're not getting the Ovechkins that stick out so wildly far. Like, well, that year was Ovechkin and Sid, right? So you're not getting the Ovechkin and Sid drafts. When was the last like pure ridiculous superstar? Maybe McDavid or Matthews, right? Um, what's happened since is you're getting these diamonds in the rough because stars can emerge from any level, any round of the draft, and any position within those rounds. And
That's what
it's
we think about Aho. It's like because he was a second round 35th overall.
Mhm.
Real
I had no idea.
Kaprizov.
Yeah, Kaprizov's a really good example. It's like, well, I mean, and stuff like that happened in the past. I think Pavelski was a 7th round pick. I mean, he skates
Yeah.
like a baby giraffe, but like him and your boy Kreider are the two best net front guys in the game.
right. Yeah, Kreider's really. I mean, Kreider started. So what Kreider has turned into. In fact, I think that he made his debut in the playoffs against the Capitals in like 2011 or something like that. He was drafted in like '09, spent a year or two. In fact, I saw someone with a Hartford Whale jersey. If you remember, they went by the Whale for
The
like
Connecticut
a season
Whale.
or two. Yeah, right. Yeah, so like he was there during that era, but he made his debut against the Caps in like 2011, and I remember he like a partial, somewhat breakaway, like just took us an absolute rip from the hash marks and just destroyed it past Holtby. And I was like, oh, this guy's awesome. But for those first couple of years, he didn't. He was a 20 goal scorer, and not even, he turned into what was a 22 goal scorer. But then I guess he just started practicing those tips in front of the net like nothing else. And now he's become like this presence who can stand in front of the net and just does miraculous things. Had a 50 goal year, almost had a 40 goal year this year, and he's really blossomed into something I never expected. So even in situations like Lafreniere, or like better example, Kako, who still kind of hasn't really, well, he hasn't turned into what you would expect from a second overall, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is still room to think like in their 6th, 7th, 8th years, they can finally fall into something that is kind of like amazing to watch, right? Kreider is just a beast, right? Even though he started pretty well and had a hot start in the 2011 when he came up as a rookie, like I didn't expect him to be a 50 goal scorer, even though he's not a consistent 50 goal scorer. So I'll be excited to see how Kako and Lafreniere become, what they evolve into. I think the other 7 guys like Aho, though.
We were talking earlier about how we're hoping that Jesperi Kotkaniemi will have like kind of a career path like what Lafreniere had, because he's having a hard time producing and everything like that. And if he stays with the Hurricanes, which I'm starting to doubt that's going to happen, I'm starting to think that maybe he's going to get shipped off in the offseason, especially with Jack Drury. Of course, who he's related to. Jack Drury has developed into where he's a really solid top 6 center option, it looks like. I think the only problem he really had was I felt like he lacked a little bit of confidence. He played with a little bit of hesitation, and he was having trouble getting muscle off the puck last season. Now I think he's built that upper body strength and that core strength he needs. He's got that confidence now. And, we were dogging him for about the first 20 games. And then after that, he was amazing. Absolutely lights out. Great in the face-off circle. Great two-way game. And he's starting to score a lot and everything like that. So, but like you're saying with the whole diamond in the rough thing, I think that's going to become more and more common because like people are really taking a second look like, hey, do I really, really need to hold on to this first or second round pick? Is drafting higher really as much of a guarantee as it used to be?
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, I'm kind of like an old school mentality guy when it comes to salary cap. Like I don't, like I think it's improved the parity across the league. Obviously, that's like an obvious outcome of the salary cap era. But I kind of miss the situation we had like 20 years ago where someone can come to a dynasty, grow that dynasty, and stay there for the entirety of a career. Like you don't see that as much now because people get to a point where like the team overall collapses, then you have someone who's getting overpaid, and it just becomes financially irresponsible for a team to hold on to somebody. Like for example, the Capitals paying Ovechkin whatever he's going to be making to kind of try and break a record. That's a hindrance to their team. But that being said, it does force or I should say, it gives an opportunity for players. Like, for example, one example in my mind who's a Ranger, JT Miller, right? A lot of people think about JT Miller as like this missed opportunity. And, in the situation the Rangers were at the time with JT Miller around the coaching situation, just like the overall strategy not being there or not a fit for JT's development, what he's doing now in Vancouver, I don't think he would have reached that if he stayed with the Rangers, right? So the fact that they got to this decision point where they had to weigh the cost versus what they were getting out of the kid and his development, and they had to make a move instead of just parking him in the AHL for a while or just like having him like relegated to the fourth line and never really improving. I think that's a good thing about the modern game. I do think it's driven by salary cap concerns and like, that's just the way it is.
I think that
that being, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think that it does
No,
need to go up a little bit more than like the 4 million or so that it's going up next season. I'm okay with increasing
that's
it
pretty big,
drastically.
right?
Huh?
That's a pretty big jump
It's a
compared to
pretty big jump, but I think it could afford a bigger one out of the simple fact that, like, the cap is like they say it's a triple hard cap, and I don't think that's the right way to look at it because you accrue cap space every day that you're not using it. That's why a lot of teams can spend so much at the deadline and everything, kind of like Carolina did this time around. So I'm definitely for like increasing the cap enough to where teams can take more advantage of the little bit of flexibility that it offers. I wouldn't change much else about it. One thing I heard someone say this, and I've never really given it a whole lot of thought, but I do want to know what you guys think about it. What if the goalies were on a separate salary cap from the skaters to allow a little bit more flexibility?
After this, I got to go. I'm still working on finals.
Okay.
But I don't know. What really bothers me about the cap space is you see it with Vegas is the LTIR. And all of a sudden, Mark Stone's contract is huge. And all of a sudden, they put him on LTIR. They're doing fine. And then they go into the playoffs and then like, oh my goodness, he's fine.
Yeah, that's getting old than doing that.
So I think there needs to be something on that specifically. Like they need to say, if you move him, it's kind of like in baseball, you know how you have the 60-day injured list? You can't like come off of it that quick. Like you have to ride the whole thing out. So I think maybe that should go in, but I'm not sure about goalies and skaters having different salary caps because I just feel like it'd be a little bit too confusing. But anyways, I will see y'all later and let's go Canes. All right, we'll talk to y'all later.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you. The goalie cap thing is interesting. Mostly because I feel like, a goalie is really important. In my head, I think, is Shesterkin a $10 million a year goalie? I would say, yeah, he probably is, for what he brings. But
that's
$10 million for a goalie, I think he's like at 9 or something. But this is the thing, though, like, should any goalie be paid that much, right? Would you rather the goalies have a separate line of backing for their finances, be able to get paid what they earned or what they should earn, and then wouldn't we rather have like that extra 5 or 6 million that they could then spread across like their regular? I would want that, right? Yeah. If anything, it would help to retain some of those bridge guys that might not make the cut and maybe or like right around the time they'd be given like a 2.53 mil like bridge for 2 years or 3 years. If they, let's say they have a breakout year and do something ridiculous and you find like, you got to pay this guy more or you're going to lose them. I would like to avoid that, mostly because I want to see a player stick with their team. Even though I have motives of I want the Rangers to buy the people that they need and bring in talent, I still would rather see a cultural change or a situation that improves the cultural situation in the league with regard to players and where they stay. Even though obviously every team does this, I hate the concept of rentals. I don't like. So there are things all over the place that I don't particularly enjoy. I didn't like the fact that we brought in Tarasenko and Kane, knowing that they were probably going to a team different.
And you spent a lot of assets to do it.
Right. So I guess we weren't in a situation where we were going to be drafting high picks, right? So I think that was kind of the thinking. That's obviously what the thinking is. You're not going to give up a bunch of first rounders unless you are certain that the players you're bringing in are going to be the key to that charge for the Stanley Cup. I don't really care who you bring in. I don't care what star you bring in. You're bringing guys into a team that's been coalesced and gelled over the course of a season, maybe a couple seasons, and you're asking them to come in and create miracles for the last two months of the season and then the playoff run. I just don't like it. It just feels off. I wanted them to keep Tarasenko. I like Tarasenko a lot. I thought he fit well. I feel like Tarasenko wanted to stay.
They couldn't make it fit with the cap because I remember they said something about trying to move Barclay Gaudreau out and nobody would
Yeah.
take him. And that's
Right,
how they were
well,
going to try and keep Tarasenko. I didn't expect Gaudreau to have the fall off that he had because I like, the types of players that I like, those third, fourth lines, shut down centers and everything. They're some of my
Right.
favorite players. So it's like, I really, really, really enjoy like that type of game. And I hate that he had the difficulties he had because it reminds me of like kind of what Carolina's dealt with Kokaniemi. So, but yeah, when it comes to rentals, like the two that we went and got, or there's a high probability. I won't say a high probability, but there's a great potential that both of them are going to stay. Gensel, there's a lot of things pointing to him
he's
potentially
great.
signing. Huh?
He's going to get paid wherever he goes too.
Wherever he goes, he's going to get paid.
If you guys keep him, like that would be smart. I think what's he got, a point a game at least since he's signed for you guys, if not more.
A little bit more. He was about at 1.5 during the last of the regular season, and I think he'll score a little bit more against you guys because the Islanders are one of those teams that play really good team defense. They block a lot of shots. They like basically play Red Rover in front of their own net. And that's why Carolina, like in game 2, I think that they had 110 shot attempts and only 5 goals. So it was pretty insane. So I think he's going to play a little bit better in this series. Who I'm really watching, like I've told other people this, and some of them think I'm crazy. I'm expecting Jordan Martinook to be someone who produces a lot, even though that's not his primary job. But like when he gets going, he loves to score. As a matter of fact, I was going to ask you, what depth forward do you think is most likely to put up a lot of points for you guys?
Huh. Let me pull up the depth chart here for a second.
Okay.
Because off the top of my head,
Winberg,
I
maybe?
guess, no.
No. I didn't think so. I just had to say that.
No. It's kind of weird because the way the Rangers are set up, right? Sorry for like looking over here.
Oh, dude,
so the way they're set up, like I almost look at like Roslovic as a depth player, even though he's on the first line right now, right? It's just not. I mean, obviously, we don't have like scorers in the third and fourth line. I want to say things like, I want Rempe to break out and score a bunch of goals, but that's not going to happen. That's not what he does. I don't know. Maybe if Keitel comes back, he can help activate Kako a bit. I don't think Keitel will come back though. And I know Goodrow had a good series against the Caps.
He
did. He had a goal. So like maybe he's the guy that's finally found it. And, I don't care if he finds it this playoff year. I don't feel as bad for paying him $4 million or whatever his contract is. Because like he has like I think he's got a full no movement clause, right? And that was like the main problem. And then what team wants to pick up his contract? Really, nobody. So. If he can make up for that, maybe Goodrow's the guy. I don't think that Wenberg is, even though he's solid. I actually think our deadline moves were good. They were better than the actual year that we pulled down Kane.
Yeah, that was one of the things I said in the series preview. Last year, you guys went out and got the best players available. This time, you got ones to fill specific roles. And and whereas Carolina went out and got the best guy available that also filled a role, and then they got Kuznetsov on the cheap, and he's been pretty good. I'm actually like I had a few worries about.
Well, Kuzi's worked out really well so far for you guys. It seems.
Yeah,
that pains me to see it because from giving these a capital, I have to hate him. It was a capital, but
I do the bird dance now and everything. I love that guy.
He was in like the substance abuse program and stuff, right? So I feel for the kid a bit, right? I mean, so in that regard, like if he's found a new beginning, great for him. It's good. I'm not gonna hate. It's just in jest that I say that. But yeah, because he's having a good time. Maybe Chad Ruedel gets some burn and has like 5 goals from the point in his first game. That's probably not going to happen. But I don't think he's even going to play. But yeah, so I'll just say Goodrow because I just don't really see any sleepers on, like you said, if you guys handle the offense that can come from the first 2 lines, I think the Rangers are going to have a really hard time. Like a very, very hard time. Like while like our checking lines can do some work and, even pull off like some shorthanded goal type things, like a guy like Goodrow is capable of doing, that's not going to win you a series. Right? There's no way that wins you a series. That wins you a series if you're neck and neck for 7 games and you need that little extra. So, yeah. Just looking at the names here. maybe Jimmy Beasley. Jimmy Beasley's had a pretty bad last couple of months of the season. He started really well to the point that they extended him for like 2 years, and he deserved that. But he started off on fire this year for the Rangers, and I was happy to see him come back. I liked him the first go around, but similar to some other players who just kind of needed a new start somewhere, he needed to go. Um, so yeah, Jimmy Beasley's kind of pepped up in the last couple of weeks of the season. Been skating better, scoring a little more. So maybe Jimmy Beasley, maybe Barclay Goodrow become those kind of um, like those storylines that make your heart warm over the series. We'll see. Who knows? How about you?
Yeah. So for our depth players, like I've already mentioned, Jordan Martinook.
Right.
I think, there's potential for him to turn into a point per game guy in the second round like he did last season against the Devils, because he absolutely smoked the Devils. He was making a Conn Smythe case by the time that the third round started. He had 10 points. And thank you, Matt. But it's like, so my buddy watching the stream was letting me know that I was on mute before.
Right.
The Martinook, Steph Nason are the two guys that I really look at to maybe produce a lot of offense. And even though he's not a depth player, Seth Jarvis, who's playing with Jordan Stahl right now, because they had to shuffle the lines up with, bringing Fost out and everything. But, players like the ones we're talking about, they become more important the longer and longer a series goes on. The deeper that you go into the playoffs, the more that you need them to produce and the more you need them to do their jobs and everything. Because when you look back at the last few Stanley Cup teams that won, a lot of them had a lot of depth. So it's like you can rely heavily on, your top six forwards and your top pair, but that only goes so far before it's like, all right, everybody else has got to, get the rest of the team to the finish line. So I'm really looking forward to this series, though. I think it's going to be really exciting. It's going to be really aggravating because it's going to go on for 7 games. Yeah, you and I are both going to have heart attacks before it's over. I'm pretty
sure. Yeah, I agree. I think the depth thing is important. More so, obviously, in the third and fourth round, probably when people start to really get drained.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll see an offensive explosion type of series. Who knows? And then we'll have a bunch of 5-4 games, or hopefully
there will be at least a couple of them like that.
Hopefully, neither team does what Hellebuck did against the Avalanche.
Oh yeah,
that was a little disappointing because he's a Vezina finalist, right? So you expect a little more from that. Not that the Jets gave him much help. That was kind of pitiful overall. But I mean, as exciting as goals are, I'd rather see some nice, low scoring games. I don't know about overtime. Overtime makes me want to just croak, but it's the best.
Yeah.
Playoff overtime is the best thing in sports.
I'm expecting at least 2 of them.
Yeah. I can see
at least 2 games will go to overtime.
Yeah.
Speaking of my buddy, Caniac Session says Canes in 6, baby.
The
only way I see that happens.
Yeah.
There's only one way I see that happening, and we did a little meeting of the minds, me, him, and our friends at the Caniac Report. We all have this little group that we talk in and everything. The only way I think that Carolina wins this game or wins this series in 6 games, if Carolina keeps the Rangers power play below 20%, they win the series in 6 games. That's the only way I see that happening.
I mean, depends how many power plays that 20% is, I guess, because 20% is pretty good. It's not that bad. What would 20% get you in the league right now? Like top 10? Close?
Yeah.
So I mean, if it's 20% of a couple of power plays, like 4, like 5 power plays, okay. That's not bad. But if you guys take a lot of penalties, 20% could be a lot more goals, right? So
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Svetch, don't take the axe to people. Can you hear me, Svetch? No slashing.
Yeah. And we'll see what Rempe does. Hopefully he doesn't take any match penalties or anything. I think some of the penalties called against him have been a little bit bullshit. Not necessarily the regular season stuff. And he himself said, for example, the elbow that he threw on that Devil that got him.
Oh, Nathan Bastian.
Right. I mean, he said he messed up. That being said, I don't think he had intent to do it. It was more not in control of his body type of situation, because he's really a nice kid. Even though he's got this persona of wrecker, right? But so long as he doesn't he's only playing 5 or 6 minutes a game right now in the playoffs. As long as he doesn't do anything stupid, that would be nice. The Carolina power play is roughly equal to the Rangers, right?
It's close, yeah.
Right. So
it wasn't very good in the first round, but I think it'll get better. Hey,
Right.
Frankie.
So I mean, the Rangers, like aside from things like Rempe, like where most of the penalties are kind of were like correctly called, like the Rangers are prone to making some stupid, lazy penalty mistakes. I mean, they're not the worst in the league at it, but there are times where you're just like, why'd you do that? Like
Hmm.
stupid penalties. So hopefully they don't like get desperate. They just don't stop skating. If they stop skating and they don't match that speed on the back check, like they're going to have a problem and they're going to take penalties. And there's only so many of those you could stop in a situation like this when you're playing formidable teams in the playoffs. Like you don't want to give up too many power play situations, no matter who you're playing.
Hmm.
Like it's just that's like that sounds kind of like stupid and like no duh. But I
Hmm.
think like giving up a lot of power plays to the Canes is the same. Like your power play is just as deadly as the Rangers power play is, right? It's just there's no way around that. I wouldn't feel confident giving up a lot of penalties to your team.
Yeah.
I don't know.
My
We'll
buddy
see.
my buddy Griff actually described like the differences between our power plays. Like, whereas you guys, it's a lot of really crisp passing, really good cycling, and then you put it on net with Carolina, it seems like it's a little bit more deliberate. Whereas with you guys, it's like there's like this natural like chemistry with your power play, where ours is a little bit more calculated, I'd say. And that just kind of lends to the fact that like you guys have a lot of offensive talent, and lending back to the thing that you were talking about back checking and not taking stupid penalties and getting worn out. That's one advantage I think Carolina will have if they can hem you guys in your end and get the forecheck going and everything like that. The safest place for Carolina to be against your team is in the offensive zone, because you guys definitely make stuff happen when you have possession in the offensive zone. So
Yeah.
it's like, but this has been great. I'm really glad that you and I got to do this, because I know we'd been talking about having a show for a while and everything, and we
Yeah.
finally
Yeah.
got around
Definitely.
to it. But
Yeah. Pucks and planes, right?
Pucks and Planes, yeah, we're gonna do that next eventually, because
Yeah.
for those of you watching, if you haven't heard, me and this guy are both airplane nerds. I'm more of a fighter jet guy. He's a commercial guy, and inversely to that, I like playing racing simulators, and he drives really big trucks in simulators. So, oh, have you gotten to do that yet? The semi truck
I don't know.
simulator?
No, I haven't. I don't really do the truck one. I do flight sim. Like I fly
Right.
commercial planes and flight sim. But I do have
Yeah.
like American truck sim. I don't have like a rig to set that up for.
Okay.
So like I don't have a wheel or anything. It would just be kind of weird. So I haven't played that in a long time. But
Mhm.
yeah.
But yeah, it has been a blast.
Yeah, man.
If you
I'll text you after we win. Okay.
Okay, yeah, we'll see about that. All right, buddy.
No,
Thank you
good luck to you guys. Yep.
thank you for coming by. We'll go skate sometime soon.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, buddy. Thank you.
Have a good one, brother.
All righty. All right, guys, that was my friend Steve. He has been really like instrumental actually with me starting the channel and everything. He encouraged me to do it and everything, and he's given me some feedback and everything on it at a lot of times and everything. Really great guy, really good goalie, very good friend of mine. The next thing I'm going to show, I have a pre-recorded segment that I'm going to let play. It's about 10 minutes long. That is a player comparison between Vincent Trocheck and Evgeny Kuznetsov, because I feel like they fill kind of similar roles as me and AB were talking about earlier in the show. So I'm going to let that play, and I'll see you guys in about 10 minutes, and we'll go through the comments. If anybody has anything they want to put in the chat that you'd like read, let me know. I'll go ahead and put it up there, and we can talk about it. I'll respond to some things, and we'll have a good time. So I will play that right now, and I will see you guys in about 9 minutes and 57 seconds. So a quick overview of how everything is laid out here. The blue metrics from StatMuse are of Vincent Trocheck. The red are of Evgeny Kuznetsov. The skating speed graphic, Kuznetsov's metrics are on the top, Trocheck's on the bottom. Skating distance, Kuznetsov on the left, Trocheck on the right. And then with zone time, Kuznetsov on the left, Trocheck on the right, and now we're going to get started really looking at these two players. So these guys fill similar roles for their teams. They're both power play specialists. They drive a lot of offense in transition. They're both great puck distributors, and we'll talk more about who I think has the edge in each of these categories and everything. The one thing that they both do very well and that they are very similar in is their ability to create clean entries. Both of these guys like to carry the puck in themselves and either distribute it or generate a scoring chance of their own. Both of them are very, very good at that. Trocheck, as far as gaining the blue line and then creating individual effort in offense, I'm going to give him a little bit of an edge over Kuznetsov with that. However, Kuznetsov passes the puck better than just about anybody I've ever seen, especially on entry. He gets in, he takes one step to make sure he's onside, and then next thing you know, he creates options through his ability to distribute the puck. So now we're going to look at their metrics and everything, comparing their regular season numbers with their playoff numbers so far. So Vincent Trocheck in 82 games played had 25 goals, 52 assists for a total of 77 points, plus minus of 16. I'm not the biggest plus minus guy, but I know from watching Trocheck play with the Hurricanes, he's really good in the faceoff circle, and he's really good defensively. He had a total of 55 minutes. He is a very he had a total of 55 penalty minutes. He's a very scrappy player. He loves to go to the dirty areas. He is a very good mix of skill and grit. 11 of his goals came on the power play. 13 of his assists came on the power play. Again, power play specialist Vincent Trocheck. Scored one shorthanded. Unlike Kuznetsov, he is utilized on the penalty kill. No shorthanded assists. 5 of his goals were game winners, 1 in overtime. 215 shots with a shot percentage of 11.6 and average 21-27 of ice time per game. Comparing that to the playoffs, in 4 games, 3 goals, 3 assists, so he's above a point per game. Plus 2, again, was utilized on the penalty kill. Very good defensively. 4 penalty minutes. 2 of his 3 goals came on the power play. 1 of his 6 assists came on the power play. No shorthanded goals. 1 shorthanded assist on Keandre Miller's goal. No game-winning goals, no overtime goals, but that has the ability to change in what I imagine is going to be a longer series against the Hurricanes. Shot percentage, 33.3, so keep an eye out. Trocheck's primary thing is not scoring goals, but he is most certainly capable of it. Time on ice per game, 22-20. He will be utilized very heavily, especially if special teams become a bigger factor. The more penalties are called, whether it's against Carolina or against the Rangers, Vincent Trocheck will become more of a factor the more that special teams are an issue, more so than Kuznetsov, who's more of just a power play guy. So comparing his career regular season numbers versus his power play numbers, in 719 games played, Vincent Trocheck has 197 goals, 322 assists for a total of 519 points, plus 11, 485 penalty minutes. Like I said, he's a very scrappy player. 58 power play goals, 87 power play assists, 8 shorthanded goals, 2 shorthanded assists, 27 game-winning goals, and 3 overtime goals, and has a career shooting percentage of 10.7, and compared disproportionately to the playoffs, he maintained similar numbers in the postseason, especially ever since he started playing in Carolina and his tenure with New York. In 44 playoff games, he has 12 goals, 11 assists for a total of 23 points. Most of those have came with the Hurricanes, and he's going to exceed those numbers with the Rangers as the years go on, I imagine. 36 penalty minutes, 4 power play goals, 4 power play assists, 1 shorthanded goal, 1 shorthanded assist, no game winners, no overtime, and a 13% shooting percentage. I imagine his shooting percentage will go down against Carolina because they were much better defensively than when he just played against the Washington Capitals. But it's something to keep an eye on, but I don't think he's going to have another 33.3% shooting percentage series like he just had. Now, moving on to Evgeny Kuznetsov, we know he missed some time this season. In 63 games played, he had 8 goals, 16 assists for a total of 24 points, minus 11, but you don't bring a guy in like Kuznetsov in for the defensive aspect of things. Carolina gets plenty of defense out of all their other players, and I think that he's been pretty solid defensively ever since he started to adapt to the Hurricane system. 30 penalty minutes, 1 power play goal, 6 power play assists. Nothing shorthanded. Carolina does not and will more than likely not utilize him on the penalty kill. 1 game-winning goal, 96 shots, and an 8.3 shot percentage, but Kuznetsov doesn't shoot the puck a ton. He's more of a distributor. Now, comparing that to the 5 games that he played in the playoffs, which were all with Carolina, whereas his regular season was split primarily between Washington and then having a few games with Carolina after the trade deadline. In 5 games played, he has 2 goals, 2 assists for 4 points, so he's about where he needs to be. In terms of offensive production, it needs to go up probably a little bit. Maybe 1.3 points per game would be good to make sure that the Hurricanes can stay competitive and beat the Rangers potentially. 1 power play goal, which was the one that opened up the series. No assists on the power play yet. That will change. Took a grand total of 6 shots on net. Had a shooting percentage of 33.3. Again, don't expect it to be that high. And comparing his regular season numbers, he has a similar amount of games played and has some similar metrics pretty much across the board with Vincent Trocheck, but he leans more towards the playmaking side of things. 743 games played, 173 goals, 402 assists for a total of 575 points. Kuzi loves to create time and space and pass the puck. If he's doing that really well, there's enough guys on Carolina, whether they're on his forward line or at the blue line, that love to shoot and love to create opportunities of their own. Kuznetsov, as long as he distributes the puck, he's going to be valuable. 394 penalty minutes, 48 power play goals, 124 power play assists. So that just lends to the fact that Kuznetsov is very much a power play specialist, and I give him a slight edge over Trocheck in that regard. 5 shorthanded goals, those all came with Washington when he was utilized on the penalty kill. I think it's doing him some good to not have to worry about that now because he's not the most defensively minded guy, but he has improved in that regard under Brind'Amour and in the system. 2 shorthanded assists, 31 game-winning goals, 8 overtime goals. And then when we look at his career playoffs, of course, his best season being the year that Washington won the Cup. If we get that, Kuznetsov, Carolina will be in good shape. In 92 playoff games, 31 goals, 40 assists, 71 points. So roughly about 0.75, 0.8 points per game in the playoffs. +4, he does tend to perform better defensively in the playoffs. 48 penalty minutes, 7 power play goals, 20 power play assists. So out of his 71 points, nearly 1/5 of them have come on the power play. Shorthanded goals, 0. Shorthanded assists, 0. Game-winning goals, 4. Overtime goals, 1. And he holds a steady 11% shot percentage. I imagine that he holds a steady shot percentage of 11 in both the career regular season and career playoffs. I imagine that we'll see numbers like that out of him going into the postseason further. An 11% shooting percentage from somebody who is primarily a distributor is definitely a good thing. I will take that. Now, in terms of speed, they're close, but Trocheck, a little bit better. Trocheck has a max skating speed of 21.47 versus Kuznetsov having a 20.12. Skating distance, Trocheck covers a little bit more ice per 60 minutes, 9.78 for Kuznetsov versus 9.79 for Trocheck. Top mileage per game, Trocheck plays in more situations. He's on the penalty kill, so he covers a little bit more distance, 3.98 versus 2.15. Kuznetsov likes to make his time and space in tight, so he has speed, but he uses it in tight areas as opposed to going 200 foot. Kuznetsov loves to play the east-west game on entry. Trocheck does it too, but I give Kuzi the edge in that a little bit as well. And top per period, Trocheck eats a lot of ice, 1.57 miles per period versus Kuznetsov, 0.84. Now, in terms of zone time, Kuznetsov has a pretty good edge. 49.3, that lends to his ability to create time and space in tight. He uses his edge work and his hockey IQ versus Trocheck, 45.9% of his time is spent in the offensive zone. In the neutral zone, a little bit closer there, 16.3 versus 17.3. Both these guys love to make things happen in the neutral zone. They love to generate clean entries, whether they do it themselves or through puck distribution. And both of them are good distributing. Both of them are good at distributing after they've gained entry. Defensive zone, Kuznetsov, 34.3 versus Trocheck, 36.8. Biggest reason for that is Trocheck is utilized on the penalty kill, so he spends a lot more time in the defensive zone than Kuznetsov. They're about equal in terms of their ability to regain possession and get it out. I'll give a little bit of an edge to Trocheck with that. But overall, all situations, Trocheck is a little bit better than Kuznetsov. If I had a choice of sending someone out there to make some magic happen on the power play, Kuznetsov. If I have a critical offensive zone draw, Trocheck is more likely to win the faceoff, but Kuznetsov is more likely to set up a game-winning goal, in my opinion. But Kuznetsov is more likely to score or to create a pass that scores a critical goal. So these guys are going to be very essential to their respective teams. All right, so now that I've finished up that segment and everything there, that was pre-recorded. So I know that there were some editing mistakes in there. I'm very sorry about that. I had to condense that video to be able to use it on this. I'm still learning about stuff when it comes to the whole StreamYard thing and everything here like that. So the next time that I have one of those segments will probably be a comparison between Jordan Stahl and Barclay Goodrow. That will be a little bit more refined. I'll have a couple of days to work on it. However, I will probably not be doing another pregame show until Game 4 on Saturday. I'm going to have a really busy week at the day job, and I will try to do a post-game show after this. So let me make sure nobody else has anything here. Alrighty. So I'm going to go ahead and end the show right here and everything like that, but I'm going to read some of the comments here first. Strogy D says, hey guys, this guy Strogy D gave me one of the absolute best comments that I've ever had on my channel in terms of something that I could reflect on and use for some content and everything like that back when the Hurricanes were struggling and everything like that. He's very much a stats guy himself, like I am. He says, good chat, or I can put it up here now, can't I? Good chat. Excited for tonight's game. Finally, Drury is back on center with Natchez. Put Nason there too, and it's all set. Yeah, that line really complements itself well because you have Natchez, lots of speed, creates a lot of time and space, pobbles the puck every once in a while, but as far as being able to take it from point A to point B as quickly as possible, ain't anyone much better than him. Steph Nason provides a little bit of that defensive safety valve on the wing, but goes to the front of the net, goes to the dirty areas, goes in the corners, wins board battles. Jack Drury, his game is showing how dynamic it is. He's quickly becoming an all situations guy. And one of the ways you know that Brendan Moore trusts you is if he puts you on the penalty kill. Depending on how the roster gets shaken up, I think next year you see Jack Drury on the penalty kill. I really do. I think his game's come that far, and he's been by far the best guy in the faceoff circle so far. Having possession against the Rangers is going to be critical, and the best way to start with possession is to win a faceoff, and then you don't have to chase the puck. So let's see. Caniac Sessions, we had AB on earlier. This one's probably from Griff. He says, let's fucking go. I agree. Steph Nason, Kreider, also, I agree. Steph Nason's my boy. BTS, not the band, says, let's go Canes. I'm new to this channel, but you pull for the Canes, so I think we'll get along just fine. Yes, I very much pull for the Canes, and I don't wear a different sweater if the Rangers, the Bruins, the Penguins, or someone like that is in town, even though I don't live in North Carolina anymore. I would like to be back there one day. It's definitely something I'm hoping for, but it's more than likely going to be South Carolina as opposed to North Carolina just because of, what I do for work. I don't really talk about it, but it'll be easier to find it down there. Strogy D also said, yeah, Nason, especially on that second line, is a beast. Yeah, Steph Nason is like, I understand that he has a depth player's role and a depth player's skill set, but his production is above most depth players. And above all, depending on how everything shakes out, when the time comes that for Jordan Staal to retire and Aho's going to be captain, I'm pretty sure that's a foregone conclusion. Slavin, definitely, he's got to keep a letter because he provides that steady presence in the locker room. You don't need someone who always has to go off and yell. Slavin's not that guy. He's the one who can kind of tell everybody, take a breath. But then I feel like you have that kind of heavy-handed guy that sets an example, not necessarily with the numbers he puts up, but with what he does on the ice, how he never takes a shift off. Steph Nason would be an excellent guy to have a letter one day down the road. In the event that Martinook moves on, especially, I think Steph Nason would be a really good guy to wear a letter. I think that he's a great leader on top of all the other great things that he does. BTS, not the band, also says, my friend asked people not to sell their tickets to Rags fans, and now she's getting harassed by Rangers fans. Yeah, that I don't understand that. It's like, I know plenty of people who move down south and they're not dicks about it, but I also know plenty of people who move down south and they bitch about it all the time. Like, I live up by the Washington, D.C. area, and there's a lot of shit I don't like about it. I don't like the traffic. Among other things, but I at least do my best to embrace and enjoy the area. So, little short story, my girlfriend and I, we flew down to Huntsville, Alabama a few months ago because we were going to move there. And I never lived there, but it was somewhere that I visited a lot when I was stationed in Florida. And it was really cool back then. And then you fast forward a few years and it's more like it is up here with less of a job market, less cool stuff to do, and almost as expensive. So, there's lesser evils and everything like that. So I just don't understand why they moved down to North Carolina and then all they do is bitch about North Carolina. You're welcome to leave. Hell, I'll help you leave. I'll move some boxes for you. I can move furniture. I can do all that stuff. I mean, I may be a little bit overweight, but picking things up and putting them down is something I'm still good at. Let's see what else we got here. Good row, LOL. Caniac Session says, yeah, it's like he definitely fills a similar role to Jordan Staal, but I'll take Jordan Staal 10 times out of 10 in that regard. Canes in 6, baby. And like I said, I think that's totally possible if they limit the Rangers power play to under 20%, and that's series long that they're going to have to do that. That'll be difficult, but I think that would be the bellwether metric of if the Hurricanes are going to win. And I absolutely think they can, and I would say that the odds of them winning even favor them, but this series is the one that I think is going to be the most arduous for them. And if they get through this one, if they can manage to win this one, especially if they do it in less than 7 games, these boys are going to be jolted. They're going to be ready to go. They're going to be galvanized. And then as long as, let's say they do advance to the conference finals, if Carolina wins the first game of the conference finals, should they make it there, I think that the curse is out the window at that point. I believe in curses, but I also believe that they can be broken. If they win I would rather them win the first game of the conference finals and lose the second and the third one just so they get the whole last couple of times that they've been to the conference finals out of their heads. Let's see. AB Caniac Sessions B looks great with that tank top. Yeah, I was just too lazy to change my shirt. Like, it's even like, I think I had another shirt. Yeah, it's right here. It's right here. I had another shirt on, and I was just like, oh, let me throw this tank top on to go walk the dog because it's humid out. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Never mind. AB Caniac Sessions. By the way, that was who we had on earlier in the show before my buddy Steve showed up, who also has a comment in here we'll get to in a moment. He says, score predictions for tonight. Who scores first for the Canes? Do I get a puck if I predict it accurately? Score prediction for tonight, I think Carolina will win a close, aggravating 4-2 battle with an empty net at the end. And you know what? Fuck it. Tony DeAngelo scores the first goal. I said it. Tony fucking DeAngelo scores the first goal. Thanks for having me on. This is my buddy Steve that was on here. He says, let's go. I don't know what that last part says. But Steve, I'm really glad you came on, dude. That was a ton of fun. And him and I are going to be doing some more stuff together here in the future and everything. One day I'm going to start a series called Morning Take Casual where, people can talk about other stuff like, him and I are both really big aviation enthusiasts. I'm more of a military aviation and fighters guy. He likes commercial aircraft. So that's something him and I are going to talk about. Plus, him and I have played hockey together quite a while now. It's been a few years ago we started playing together. Strogy D, I'm really hoping for the second to absolutely dominate and create a couple of goals tonight. That would help lower the focus on the Gensel line. Yeah, the Natchez, Nason, and Drury line, we'll have to come up with a nickname for it. I don't know what you call that. If you guys got any ideas, put them in the comments. But I really hope that line opens up and everything, because like I was saying, Aho in Game 5 is the Aho that we need all the way throughout. The points will come if he does that, but Game 5 was the best I've seen him play as far as a 200-foot game since the series with the Islanders started. So if we get that out of him tonight and he can, help chip away at the Rangers, what defensive capability they do have, and, him putting up points won't be so important at that point. The more he does, the better. But the second line, the third line, the depth in general is going to be really important to Carolina being able to win the series. They're the ones who are going to have to chip in the extra offense to get Carolina past the Rangers. If it comes down to whose top six scores more, then the Rangers win the series. If it comes down to goaltending, likeliness is the Rangers win the series. But like I said in my series preview, if Shesterkin makes 5 big saves, Freddie needs to make 4. If Shesterkin has a 920 save percentage, Freddie needs a 915. You can't win and lose strictly on goaltending all the time, especially not Carolina. So as long as Freddie keeps doing what he's been doing, maybe put up a little bit better numbers, but he was outstanding in the last series. And Game 5, he gave up 2 fluky goals off of deflections, and then he lost an edge going into the crease. And the crease is one of the places where a lot of ruts get made because, skates are always there. The goalie is always there. So was it kind of like comically laughable what happened there? Yes, absolutely. Is it that out of the ordinary? No, but he must have hit a rut that went all the way to China because he totally lost it. He went like a foot in the air before he fell. So, Canes were a lot more dominant in that game than I think the scoreboard showed. And if they can at least split the series with the Rangers at MSG, or better yet, if they can win them both and they come back to Raleigh, it's going to be loud and all that type of stuff. So let's see what else we got here. LMAO, TDA, wouldn't be surprised if a Ranger scores first or in the game in general. Yeah, I mean, we got enough of them to do it. Former Ranger scores first, rather. NDN line, I guess. Yeah, I'm trying to think of for now that'll work, or we can call it the 2ND line because you have 2 names with N and 1 with D, or something like that. It's okay, yeah, we'll use that for a working title for now, and we'll figure out something else from there. That's about all I really got for this one, guys. I can't really think of nothing else to talk about. Yeah, I think that's about it, unless you guys have anything else that you can come up with that you'd like to ask me about or anything like that, because I got 1 more hour until I can eat, because I only eat once a day because I typically only eat once a day. Yesterday I ate like a pig, but I get to have waffles and bacon and eggs and stuff like that while I watch the game. So I'm really excited about that because that's going to be the first time I've eaten since 4:00 yesterday. So I'm starving. Yeah, that's about all I got for right now. So we'll wait and see if anybody else has anything to say, and then I'll log off here in a couple of minutes and we'll all get ready to go watch the game. Okay, bon appetit, and let's go Canes. Yeah, no, I think they're going to do well today, even if they don't win. As long as they can at least set the tone and not get like destroyed, and that goes for both sides. As long as they set the tone and say, "Hey, you're going to have a hard series," that's a step in the right direction. Of course, I want them to win today, but winning game one on the road is incredibly difficult. It's statistically, it's a very, very large mountain to climb. So, all right, guys, I'm going to bail out of here. Thank you all for joining me. I will try to do a post-game show. If it goes to a bunch of overtimes, probably not. And the post-game show won't be super formal. I'll just kind of go on here, talk about the game and everything like that. And if anybody from Caniac Sessions or Caniac Report wishes to join me, I'll make sure that, they get to jump on and everything like that. Steve, you'll probably be able to jump on too if you're not too busy. All that type of stuff. It won't be a very long show. It'll be like 30 minutes, whereas you guys have hung in here for an hour and 20 minutes on this one. So y'all take care. I'll see you next time. That was a lot of fun.